Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettyjohn.
And we are live. This is David Pettyjohn with the Hawaii Boss podcast. We are fortunate today. We get to step into the big boss's office, CNC Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi's office, and we're going to find out from him. We're looking for leaders that can tell us, how do we get out of this pandemic? What's going on and what our next step is? But we also want to find out how he got to where he's at right now. We're in the mayor's office. If you can believe it, everybody, Rick Blangiardi, sir, Mr. Mayor, welcome.
David, I'm happy to be here. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm great. I understand it's Friday. You know, you have a long week. Sometimes you get a little punchy. You know, you want to. I'm going to try and keep it nice and easy.
Well, today at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, it feels that way. I actually have one more day. These are pretty much 6-day weeks. And my Saturday is pretty full. But, you know, I welcome the opportunity because through this job, just like you and I meeting right now, and I don't even know, quite honestly, who this audience might be, it's an opportunity to talk about stuff and communicate. And, you know, and that's what part of what this job is about.
Absolutely. So what we're trying to do in the Hawaii Boss is interview leaders that are in Hawaii and that are trying to make Hawaii special. Sometimes there's different approaches. But we're looking specifically the business approach because you know there's definitely a need. The government and sure. Private business working together. That seemed to be some of the platform that you ran on. That you know these public-private partnerships are something that's important. Tell us how that's unfolding for you right now as mayor.
Well, I would tell you, 4.5 months into it, I find this job to be extremely energizing. I mean, and people have said, aren't you daunted by the task? And I would tell you really, honestly, no. This is an opportunity. I work with a tremendous team. We were fortunate. We said job one would be precisely that we would go out and find the smartest thinkers, the smartest doers, more than anything, people who would embrace the responsibility we were going to give them because all these jobs are big. And then probably most important, they were willing to hold themselves accountable. And so we were able to do that. So I'm not in this job alone. I really wish you could meet my whole cabinet. We brought in over 40 people, senior people, some of whom had government experience. Most of them were from private sector, but they had all had really tremendous track records of success.
Sure.
For certain common denominators in people. They were passionate, they were authentic, and they knew how to drive execution. And the thing that for me, since you haven't asked me, I'll tell you right now, the biggest surprise is all these people who are so independent of each other. I mean, some of whom, we all live in Hawaii, some of whom knew each other a little bit, but now that we're working together, the level of cooperation and collaboration is very exciting to me. So I'm energized by that. It's like, you know, I'll go back to my coaching days. It's like you have a great, you know, you're taking the field and you just have, can I say kick ass on this thing?
Sure, you bet.
You know, you just have a kick ass team behind.
Everybody's charged up. Everybody knows where they're supposed to be, and when play comes, they hit it and they hit their mark, and they
know the other guys are going to pay for that. No matter, you know, you're going to come out of that thing ahead. That's how I feel. It's that feeling like, okay, we got a lot in front of us. Some of these challenges have been years in the making. They're not easily solved, but this is a group of men and women committed to wanting to do something about it. I mean, they're all terrific. I love them all, and you know, it's been a privilege to be in that, and that's in the inner circle.
Sure.
Department heads, then you get involved with the broader context of our city and county employees, and then of course what we do for a living, which is serve the public. All of that is very energizing.
So many stakeholders that you have to pivot and evaluate. But you've got to have a good team with you to get your back and to make sure they're executing on their own. You don't want to micromanage. You know, maybe in your previous career in your work management by walking around a big city, county in Oahu. How you get around to see everybody?
Well, we get around, but you can't get around to see everybody. And
sure.
I know that, but I mean, I don't sit in my office all day long, except when I have one of these painful, you know, podcasts here. No, actually, we actually take on a lot of meetings each day, sometimes here, other places. One of the things I've been trying to do is familiarize myself, you know, with other departments. But, you know, if I just recounted this week, I mean, today I had 2 meetings this morning outside the building, and you know, and then I came in. I've been in here for a bunch of meetings, but I'm leaving at 4:30. And then tonight, my wife and I are hosting some people for dinner. You know, and then tomorrow's full. I mean, so it's a combination of here, there, and whatever, and then opportunities like this. So it's exciting.
So pulling all of that together, you mentioned your career in coaching, and different things that you've been involved in sports, and how did you come up? What was your first job?
Well, while I wanted to coach college football, so I mean, look, I had a lot of construction jobs. I did all that grunt labor stuff, working my way through school. But I was fortunate. I started coaching at the University of Connecticut right after I graduated college in '69. I coached there for a couple of years, and then I came back to Hawaii and coached for 5 years here. So I coached 7 years I spent as a college football coach. But in those years, we weren't doing it for money. We were doing it for love of the game. So I went to college. I was the first in my family to go to college.
Okay.
I always had that because I came out of a blue collar family. My dad was a machinist. All my uncles, all these guys were the guys that fought World War II.
Sure.
And they were all carpenters and worked in different factories. My dad was a machinist, like I said. So a very blue collar family. So I
built the country, though. These are the folks that built the country.
I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of my background. But I went to school because, as I said, first in my family to go, with this notion of, I'm going to do well and make money, get a white collar job, as we used to say all the time. That said, I was doing anything but. I was having great success coaching. I was a head football coach. I was a defensive coordinator, which in coaching terms made me the number one assistant. I had a master's degree, which was cool. I was making $15,000 a year. And
things weren't adding up, huh?
And they weren't adding up. And it was okay until my wife then got pregnant with my now oldest son. And with a baby coming, I was at a crossroads. And so the crossroads was to stay in coaching, which I loved. I had opportunities to go coach in the mainland or to stay here in Hawaii. To be honest with you, even though I loved the game, I loved Hawaii more. And so I chose to reinvent myself and took a chance, if you will, at getting into television, which I knew nothing about. I can honestly tell you the key decision thing in making it was because I knew I was going to leave coaching. I was going to go, I didn't apologize. I was going to take a job that could make money. And at the time, Cease Heftel owned KGMB.
Okay.
And he said to me in the interview, he said, Rick, if you're willing to work hard in this business, in 3 years, you could make $50,000 a year. Well, first of all, it was twice as much as Coach Price was making as the head coach in 3 years. And it was more than 3 times what I was making. And I had a baby coming and I wasn't worried about the hard work. And so I jumped into it. But to be honest with you, I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't have a game plan. I just went for it to try to make some money.
If someone's got some trust in you, though, that helps a little bit. It seems like he pulled it out of you a little bit.
Yeah, I did. I mean, look, that was 43. That was 1977 when I started. But then the really great thing that happened for me was I no sooner left coaching, and Earl McDaniel then used to run K59 radio, called me up and said, "Hey, would you like to do color on football with Jim Leahy?" And I said, "Yeah." So that led to 13 years of Jim and I, through a lot of iterations, except for one season, doing radio and TV. We did a lot of stuff. We did national telecasts. In those days, we used to do the broadcast for ESPN as well before they started sending over guys and stuff.
Oh, their own folks.
Yeah, but that was as they were growing up themselves, right? So that kept me in touch with the game of football for all the way till 1989, and it was great.
So tell me about that. You're developing your career in media, but you're also staying very connected with the football and boosting and things like that. Tell us how does that work for your businessman, but then you also want to support the athletics and what's happening. Tell us how that.
At that time I was a sales guy and I was just out there hustling like everybody else, going out and and trying to sell advertising and earning commissions. But then a couple of years into it, I got promoted into a sales management ranks and then a further one. Then in 1984, I worked my way, Mustang my way through KGMB, which in those days was the #1 station. Went over and took over a rat-infested warehouse, a thing called Kiku Television. They called us the KHNL, and we became the home for UH Sports, and we really broadened it. And that's what I think I was able to parlay my background and passion for sports into the business that I was in. I mean, we did sell sports. When you're in television, you're selling sports. A lot of it was network. We did have at KGMB men's basketball. We used to do the 2 away football games here, back when they played 11 games and only 2 away. So I had familiarity with selling those games there, but we were able to really, when I became the general manager of KHNL, turn that into a very different deal. And then we expanded it And one of my best friends ever was Stan Sheriff, and he believed in what I was doing, what we wanted to do together for the university. And he took the chance and said yes. And so that was back in the days when we were doing on free TV, over 100 events a year. And that really catapulted us into a different place.
For sure. You knew everybody.
Yeah, and we did well too. And so we did so well that even though it was a rat infested warehouse in 84, by 1986, we sold it to a company called the King Broadcasting Company for then a record-breaking amount of money of $20 million. And that was a lot of money in those years for that station, given it was all because of the presence we created through UH Sports and other community events that we did. We really turned into a community station.
Sure.
And then we got sold to that company in 86. 3 years later, the King Broadcasting Company asked me to move to Seattle to be their general manager of their flagship station. I was in Laramie, Wyoming with Jim Leahy doing a football game, staying at a dog of a motel that didn't even have a phone in the room. I came back and it said, call Seattle. This is, there was a thing on the post that go to the front office. They didn't have a phone in my room.
It was like you getting called up to the bigs or something.
This is a God's truth. And I thought it just so happened it was my 43rd birthday. And I thought it was my then boss calling me up to be thoughtful enough to wish me happy birthday. I walked up the street. This is in West Laramie, which is a real cowboy town.
Sure.
No offense, I don't mean in a pejorative way, but I was
it's country.
I walked into a country bar called the Buckhorn Cafe, swear to God, with a payphone nailed on the wall. And I went in and I called Seattle thinking I was just going to get a happy birthday wish. And Eric tells me, we've made a decision here in Seattle. We want you to come and be our general manager if you and your wife will want to leave Hawaii. And that became a real crossroads for me.
Sure.
And I ended up on that challenge and that opportunity. I couldn't say no. I had 3 small children at the time. King TV, to go and run that in Seattle. I mean, I didn't have the pedigree for it from the standpoint of the kinds of people who work there and the people in the background. So it was a challenge I couldn't say no to. So even though I didn't want to leave Hawaii, there's an old thing I learned, if this is about a leadership, there's an old saying, I'm not sure who the attribution originally is, but I remember I learned this from Coach Price. He simply said, the purpose of all education is to do those things that we have to do at the time that we have to do them, whether or not we want to do them. So that's smarter. When you come to those crossroads in life, and what decisions do you make at those times? Those choices, those decisions can have so much to do with how you end up ultimately defining the quality of your life. And so, as it was coincidental to my 43rd birthday, and having mustanged my way through 2 television stations locally from 77 to 89, there was no way I was going to say no to that opportunity. And so I moved my young family to the mainland, and that triggered a 13-year odyssey on the mainland.
Unbelievable. But tell us now, it seems like that, I came up blue collar the same way. My parents were bakers. I had to, go to school because I didn't want to get up at 11 o'clock at night. I loved what they did and they provided for our family. But we always have to qualify. Hey, I'm not, I don't have the same caliber as these folks. A lot of people I hear from Hawaii, I'm not qualified. I didn't go to this school or that school. But, what do you think made the difference? Rick Blangiardi that says you're the guy. Is it some sort of work ethic? You just what is it that made you, what you think that they said yes for?
Well, I would tell you, ever since I was a young guy, I've always aspired to be a leader. I just was sort of in me, and was captain of my high school undefeated state championship team. I was captain in college. Did all that stuff. Just gravitated.
It was just natural for you.
Just kind of within me, I guess. There's an old saying, and they actually did a commercial about the old idea about you look at a dog sled, and unless you're the lead dog, the view is always the same. That kind of,
That's true.
I really like that view. And so you aspire for these things, but because they just sort of came that way, and it was. And I've been mentored by really good people. I've had great leaders in my life, great friends in my life.
Sure.
So I've respected, have done so much. It's just always that, as it's turned out, that desire to challenge yourself to be as good as you could be, oftentimes, David, just correlated into leadership roles. I think it was more about my personal journey to try to do the best I could. And just because I would expect that from myself, that as opposed to necessarily pursuing a leadership job, those came. This decision that I didn't make until I was 73 to pursue a leadership job, to run for mayor, is the first time where I clearly defined I'm going after that baby. Okay.
Right.
All the other things just sort of happened
Right.
along the way through being pretty good at what I used to do in television.
Yeah, as you said, Mustang your way through, you recognize that through your hard work and efforts that people are going to recognize that. Just keep your head down working. You don't have to say it. You gotta show it.
Yeah, you just deliver. Yeah.
Deliver. If you can tell, I don't care about your digital, profile. If you can tell me how you're going to get it done, and then you can get it done, that seems what makes the difference between.
Well, you heard me say earlier about my team. One of the things that was as eclectic an approach as we took, and believe me, we took a very eclectic approach in our hiring, because I've always believed in that. It's not to satisfy any HR requirements or whatever. I just like having a lot of different people around.
Right.
I just enjoy that. There's so much to be said about that.
A lot of energy that comes from that discussion.
Common denominators we look for, and one of them, and there was each and every one of them, was their ability to drive execution. That they understood what it meant to get results. There was no compromise in that. And then some of the other things we look for is people who I felt had great, strong strength and character, because as I said during my State of the City, we wanted people who wouldn't fade in the face of adversity, because I knew we were headed for a lot of tough stuff. And we are in the middle or beginning to take on a lot of tough stuff now. It's taken us 3 to 4 months to really orient ourselves to the job and to each other. And now we're beginning to operationalize. That's probably been true over the last 30 days. But it just takes a while, and there's some things we're getting to make happen. And we're in that process now, and we're starting to crank up the motor. And we had our own little preseason, so to speak, and now it's getting into a regular season.
Everybody's in the bus. We're about ready to head out. So where's the first couple of destinations here? We've got, if you're sports talking, there's the Aloha Stadium that needs some attention. There's a rail issue. There's this mask things in sports. You pick,
just keep going on. It's a long list. Go ahead, keep it up.
Oh, that's the first. That's just the first 3. I know. I bet they bring you a list a mile long every day.
No, we're kind of aware of it. Look, I would tell you this. If you want to talk about anything right now because of COVID, you can't talk about priorities without starting first and foremost with, our economic recovery, okay? Because that wasn't anything necessarily I was looking at when I announced in January 2020. We actually made the decision in December of 19, but when I announced I was going to retire, at that time we had among the lowest unemployment rates in the nation. We just finished a record-breaking year in tourism, as you know, and all things being considered, Honolulu especially was really on a roll from the standpoint of all the things that impacted us. So then COVID hits, and so in the remnants of that, now some 14, 15 months later, as we begin to get towards normalcy.
So your budget's mincemeat, and now you got to start over.
Well, we still have a 9% unemployment. We lost 40% of our restaurant trade. You can't get people to get back to work. I was on the phone today, did a Zoom call with Seattle Starbucks. They got 128 stores on our islands, but they're having a hard time. A lot of their baristas left and trying to get people back, and that's just one. I've
seen some of them close. Yeah.
Yeah, the restaurant. That's because of staffing, not because they want to stay closed.
Right.
So, but I mean, that's not just Starbucks. Our restaurant association in our state is a $6.5 billion a year business, where to be employs over 100,000 people. That represents about 19% of our economy. And most of those restaurants have been trying to get open and having the same staffing problem. That's going to be an issue for us going forward. But in the meantime, we're doing a lot of other things. So get economic recovery. We could talk a lot about the things that we're doing as a city to help with that. And that's definitely hand in glove with the state, obviously, and the federal government now with the subsidies we're getting.
Sure.
But then you break it down to what you just talked about, the things that we knew. I knew going in, and one of the things that motivated me, homelessness was a big issue. Rail was second. Building affordable housing, affordable rental units, which is what we're in the process of really doing, which has been talked about forever. But as you probably know, David, I certainly know, and everybody on this call probably knows, the meaning of affordability has lost its meaning in Hawaii, given the reality. That's why in the Alice reports, 2 out of 3 homes, 2 out of 3 families who are working families are living paycheck to paycheck. That's a very precarious scenario. And it doesn't take much for people to go get pushed off the other side one bad car repair, one emergency medical bill, whatever. So that's how fragile our economy is. And so we've been so badly impacted. Some people have had unemployment, others have not. People have lost businesses or whatever. We're going to pay attention to all that. But building affordable rentals, the whole issue of infrastructure and everything we're dealing with, not just with sewers and roads and whatever and so on and so forth. Our infrastructure is aged here. There are a lot of things we need to do. I just did a deal today with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on the LOI flood mitigation project, things that we have to have happen. These are very time, labor, and capital intensive. Safety has become a big issue. Just yesterday met with interim chief Rowdy Vanek here as we start to look at, and that's two positions we have open right now. We have the police chief and the fire chief, and those positions are going to be hired. They're going to be critical hires for us. But safety is really important in this day and age. And then, we're the national champs on longevity. Our population ages. I mean, look at me, I'm 74 years old. I'm not planning on dying right now, but I'm also in a little bit of disbelief that I'm 74 years old. But we got a lot of people who live long here, and that's a good thing. And we want them to continue that way, but we have a shortage of resources for people who get older. And so elder care is a big issue. Sure. And so
well, tell us how, we're very dependent upon the tourism and then therefore, sort of a domino effect. We've been asking other folks too. Is there other sort of alternatives that we can generate some self-sustaining, opportunities for us as a city, county, state?
Well, there was talked a lot about during the campaign about diversifying our economy. And if you go back, I could show you records from 50 years ago. People talked about it. It's a very difficult thing to do. So let's not forget that tourism is our economic engine. It will continue to be so, and we will recover and things will go forward. I can't give you the timetable, but it's going to take a while.
Sure.
Models right now for 21, 2, and 3. I mean, it's going to come back. Tourism is going to come back pretty quick in that regard. But can we expand given the people we have here? Well, yeah, I think the pandemic has served to have a silver lining on some people who are now working here. I did it last night with two young men, both of them. One works in San Francisco, one works in New York, and they're here. And they're able to stay here. And they're going to stay here until at least September. And one of them actually got told he works for Apple. He could stay through the rest of 21 and work from here. Okay. There's some of that. But I like to look at, what businesses can we expand upon that we're already doing and could do better. One of the things is last week I did a tour with Sony. We've been right now, there's more production going on in Hawaii right now for major outlets like Amazon, Netflix, CBS, NBC, all these content providers. There's more production going on right now in Hawaii than there's ever been before. Most people don't know about that, but that's an economic boost for us and to be able to expand that business. In fact, your audience, you may not even know, but CBS is going to unleash CSI Hawaii, which is going to be good for us. They want to have two major.
I've heard that NCIS or NCIS. Yeah. A friend of mine, a retired Army Ranger, he's an NCIS agent now, and he's consulting on that. And he's it's amazing that the different things the economy can bring, because Hawaii is beautiful.
Yes.
Its location.
Yes. And, but there's films going on. There's a lot of different things. So that's an expansion of business actually that has really nice ROI. But there are other things we can do in this day and age with technology and things that we need to lend ourselves to. There are things we can do in the agricultural field. And I saw a lot during the campaign on urban farming and different things that we can help support. You have to look at a predilection of who wants to work it. Here we were just a few moments ago talking about the shortage, whether it was Starbucks or restaurants or whatever, staffing. Some of these stuff, it takes people. So you got to find enough
and
people who want to do this stuff. So you could talk theory all day long.
Right.
But we're interested in in driving execution and making sure. So to the extent,
do you have a business lead on your team, someone that that sort of is sort of gathering all this for you and making sure that that you've got what's really the pulse on it? How do you keep a pulse? Like you said, you got a team around you. How do you do it?
Right now, and Adam Lefebvre, I got these two guys in the room checking me out, making sure I don't say anything stupid. But they're the guys responsible. I go to them every day and go, "What do you have in that head of yours?" And they tell me. No, I think, look, this job is I think all of us take pride in being in touch You got to read a lot in this business. We're certainly opening ourselves up to talking with people, meeting people. I think the one thing I think we brought to this is a spirit of entrepreneurism and the fact that, I said right in the beginning, I want us to shift. I want to shift from a government mentality of being a regulator to being a business partner and staying open to that. Let's figure out ways to get to yes and not be in the practice of just saying no all the time.
Yeah, create some efficiencies.
Yeah, well, we go about, fixing the systemic operations. So, we stay open to that. I find that in life, if you stay open to the possibilities, things come to you. And they come your way if you're open-minded enough. So we meet with a lot of different people. We look at ideas. Not everybody has a great idea. But right now, especially where we know economic recovery is in the forefront, we're going to do anything and everything we possibly can if it's a good decision to help spur on our economy.
Well, sir, as you put those ideas together, you've already given us a sort of a snapshot of what's happening 4.5 months in, and as things start to develop and as the action starts happening, as the execution we start to see in the product of your mayorship, we're excited about it. So, we're also excited you had this little bit of time with us. We have this little bit at the end called Pauhana. We relax a little bit. I think 95% of these questions have been run by HR. The other 5, I don't know which ones are which, so we have to be careful. But so first one, there's a little bit of rivalry that just came up. I happen to have gone to school at Brigham Young University. UH Manoa.
You guys did really well last week in the volleyball game. Congratulations. Thank you.
We tried our best, but UH Manoa, a little bit of brag on their men's team. And
3 sets to nothing. What can I tell you? Does that not speak to how good that men's volleyball team is?
That is a great team. So I heard you had them in the office. Tell what's the kind of bright future for these young men and sports in general. People, it seems like Hawaii develops a lot of athletes. So tell us about how you see these.
Well,
these
because sports here are more than just sports scores. Over the years in broadcast we were talking about it's woven in to the fabric of our lifestyle here. And we have so many athletes competing in so many different ways. And it starts off with boys and girls at young ages. I mean, we've got a preponderance of just great athletes. I think
Little League World Series winners.
I actually think, and I believe this is true, and because I read this out at the Hawaii Hall of Fame, Hawaii State Hall of Fame, Hawaii has produced more Olympic athletes per capita than any other state in the country. What does that say? And Olympic champions too.
Sure. Well, it goes along with the longevity of things and being a part of Hawaii.
It's the lifestyle and it's the attitude, and so you mentioned Little League, but a lot of other things. And look, we would be remiss too in this week that we lost Cole Brennan, which was really tragic.
Sure.
But you think back, in that whole year, Hawaii against the odds to make it to a BCS game and have a guy who's a Heisman finalist. Or for that matter, guys like Marcus Mariota or Monte Teo, who his name hasn't surfaced lately. We had 3 guys from Hawaii, Heisman finalists, and one of them won it. I mean,
sure.
In a relatively short period of time. Think about that. I mean, that's, and not to mention how many guys have gone on to the NFL or just were great college players. You don't have to play them, they're just great college players. And look at the win-loss records over the years and stuff. And that's just football. And then you start going into a lot of other sports. So, that's part of the quality of living here is being around that stuff. Got all these crazy competitive people walking around. And it's a very exciting thing to be around.
Yeah, it's like you have to go race people up Cocoa Head, and they're just, it's your neighbor. But, it's everybody gets out there and they love to be a part of this. And again, Mr. Mayor, thank you for sharing your time. I hope we don't have to edit out for your folks who are watching too much of this stuff. But again, you've been a real pleasure. And we hope as news, again, as comes forward, we'd love to talk with you some more and share the successes of your mayor term, sir.
Well, David, all I can tell you is if you edit one word, I'll never be back again. But
okay, we're going straight. It's a raw cut, sir. It's raw cut. We'll go for it.
I'm just kidding. No, look, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much. I wish you and your audience the very best. Let me know anytime. Look, all I can tell you is this team that I get to represent and I'm a part of, we're out here to do our very best, and we hope to be able to do that and help bring us along into our future. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor. Aloha and ahui ho. Yeah.
Make sure to subscribe to Hawaii Boss and follow us on social media at Hawaii Boss Podcast at the links in the description. We'll see you soon in the boss's office.